Good afternoon, everyone. So just a little about me. I have 6 years plus experience. I'm a Java engineer and systems architect. I have a startup called catc.com. And then I work for another company, Bananize. Bananize is in Austria. And then I love to cook and I love to play piano. All right. So today I'm going to be talking about gRPC, just an introduction to gRPC. It's going to be a very quick dive into the advantages of using gRPC, for high performance operations, especially in Java. Okay, so what is gRPC? gRPC is a modern, of course, open source framework developed by Google in 2016, I think, for building remote procedure calls. gRPC services can communicate with each other in a highly efficient, regardless of the programming language that you use. gRPC itself uses, it means Google Remote Procedure Call. So gRPC is a popular implementation of Remote Procedure Call. So let's talk a bit about what a call means. We are going to start first by determining what a local call is and what a remote call is. A local call is a function call within a process to execute some code. So the diagram on the left is a local call from the order management to the, say, payment service. It happens within the same process, right? Now, a remote procedure call enables one machine to invoke some code on another machine as if it is a local function call from a user's perspective. So the diagram on the right is, so right now the other service is on a server A, and the payment service is on another server B. So RPC enables the communication between servers A and B. In this case, what is happening is that other service is able to remotely call a function on server B. Of course, I have said that it's a popular implementation of RPC. So, Google started writing their implementation to use internally. Of course, many other organizations have used these. I hear Netflix have used these. Google themselves. I think Uber is using this, right, as a preferred mechanism to connect a large set of microservices running within and across data centers. So, why gRPC? What makes gRPC so popular? First, gRPC has a thriving ecosystem, right? It makes it very, very easy to develop production quality and type-safe APIs that scale really, really well, right? The core of this ecosystem is the use of something called protocol buffers as its data exchange format. Protocol buffers themselves they are language agnostic and they are platform agnostic as a mechanism for encoding structured data. So let's talk a bit about the 3 points here. So what does it mean when we say that gRPC leverages HTTP2 and uses protocol buffers for data serialization, and then of course it supports multiple programming languages? gRPC is built on HTTP2 to provide high performance foundation to scale. gRPC uses HTTP streams, which in itself allows multiple streams of messages over a single long-lived TCP connection, which itself allows the gRPC framework to handle many concurrent RPC calls over a small number of TCP connections between clients and servers. So what does it mean for it to use when we say that it uses protocol buffers for data serialization? gRPC uses protocol buffers to encode and send data over the network. It would support JSON-like data, but protocol buffers themselves provide several advantages that make it the preferred encoding format of choice for gRPC. Of course, it supports strongly typed schema definitions, the definition that the client and server relies on to communicate. The structure of that data over the wire is defined in something called a proto file. Before I go into this, I just want to talk a bit about what it does. Protocol buffers provide tooling support that turn this schema into a proto file into data access classes that you can then use for any programming language of your choice. So this is a simple, I had to come up with something very simple for the class. This is a minute. All right, okay. So this is a simple protobuf file. Here you can see that it's a greeting service and it returns the response. And then I have the greeting request and takes a string of 1. And then the response is also a message that is 1. Now, this is the server implementation, and then we also have a client implementation. This is a simple implementation of that, depend on that profile. Here, this is a class greeting service implementation that extends the greeting service gRPC implementation base. Here, I'm just getting the request. I'm getting a request. The function gets the request, expects a response from the response observer, and then I'm having the message here. My message variable just gets the name from the request and then returns a response. This is the client implementation. This client implementation uses that generated stub to then make calls, right? So I'm going to leave my screen for 2 seconds. Okay. All right, so let's compare gRPC with REST. The communication style of REST is HTTP 1, and that of gRPC is HTTP 2. The data format for RESTful APIs is JSON or XML in some cases. For gRPC is protocol buffers. The performance of REST APIs is moderate, but for gRPCs within the context of microservices is really high. REST APIs do not support streaming out of the box, but then they depend on other external mechanisms to stream things like WebSockets and the rest. But streaming is baked into gRPC at the core. REST APIs don't have any language support, but gRPC uses stops, therefore it supports many languages. So developers would most likely use these generated classes in the client to make RPC calls in the server to fulfill some RPC requests. And by supporting many programming languages, the client and server can independently choose what programming language and ecosystem that best suits their use case. Okay. So let's talk a bit about the types of communication in gRPC. This is very important. Unary RPC, this is just a single request and response like REST, right? Let's say a user logs into an application, sending their credentials and receives an authentication token in response. The use case, of course, authentication, fetching a single piece of data, like querying a specific city, for instance. Server-side streaming. I had said earlier that gRPC supports streaming out of the box. So let's say a user subscribes to live cricket, for instance. The client makes a request for the scores and the server streams updates every second and as the match progresses. This is used for real-time stock price updates, live event notifications, such as sports and things like that. The third thing is that it supports streaming out of the box. So let's say a user uploads a large file to a server in chunks. The client would then send multiple chunks of data, and the server responds once the upload is complete with a success message or URL to access that video. The use cases in this case would be file uploads, think Google Drive or YouTube, or sending telemetry data from IoT devices to a server for analysis. You know, think fitness trackers, like sending batches of step counts. The next thing is that it supports bidirectional streaming. So bidirectional streaming, both for client and server, is what enables that exchange, that real-time exchange information. So think about what is happening right now, right? What is happening right now at the core of this technology is the use of gRPC, a video conferencing application like Zoom, where users can send their videos and audio streams to the server, and the server will then respond with the video back to the client in real time, right? Use cases would be real-time collaborations like Google Docs, where you have two users having live edits, multiplayer online games, financial systems for live trading as well. So what are the advantages of gRPC? Okay, I have spoken about this. What are some of the advantages of gRPC? Why do companies use it? Number one is high performance, right? Using high binary protobuffs and HTTP to enable low latency communication. Protobuffs is used for data serialization, which is a compact binary format. It is significantly smaller and maybe 5 times faster than JSON or XML. Of course, that will reduce the payload size and then improve transmission speed. With HTTP2, gRPC leverages, of course, HTTP2, which offers multiplexing, header compression, and low latency. The real-life example would be in, say, financial trading platforms where low latency is key to the updates of ticker prices. Cross-language support. Of course, gRPC works seamlessly across languages like Java, Python, Go, and more, because it generates, if you think about the process, the client generates a stop that will be used by these languages in something called protofile that I had discussed earlier. Then you and I developers can then use the same API definitions across different services written in different languages. Say a backend written in Java can communicate with a front end written in Python without additional code for handling language-specific serialization or deserialization.
Nelson, very sorry, but like you already like almost 15 minutes in. Can you please speed up and wrap up in the next 30 seconds?
In conclusion, all right. gRPC offers streaming capabilities and cross-language support that make it ideal for distributed systems. It has automatic code generation. When would you need it? When you have to build low latency and high throughput communication, real-time data stream, and that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nelson. I will ask everybody to save questions for Nelson to the end so that we can give like other speakers some time. So the next person that is going to present to us is Mark Stinger, and he's going to talk about the difference between the biscuit and the biscuit team. I'm really curious about what does this mean.
Okay, it's Stringer, by the way, not Stinger. Can you see my screen? Marvelous. So I'll start the slideshow. Let's go back to the beginning. And I'll start my timer as well. So if you hear something going ba-ding, it's my timer, keeping me to time. Okay. So the title of this talk is The Biscuit Tin and the Biscuit, which sounds like it's not about technology at all. It really is. My experiences in being a project manager of software development projects. That's what I've been doing now for 15 years, but I've also been involved in the software development industry for 30 years. You can tell how old I am because I got my own name without any extra bits when I signed up to Google. And this idea that I'm talking about comes out of a book that I've written called Delivering the Impossible, which I'm looking for a publisher for. So if anybody knows any people who publish non-fiction books around technology and project management, hit me up. But this is an idea that's kind of spun out in a kind of slightly different direction. And basically, what I've realized when I was writing this book, which is basically helpful ways of looking at project management, different kinds of metaphors, different kinds of ways of seeing project management, is that there's this really fundamental thing going on in project management that makes a lot of the kind of discussions and arguments that we have really, really puzzling. And unless you can, it's a really weird thing because unless you're looking for it, you might not see it. So I'm going to say it now. There are two things that we have in project management. We have biscuit tins. So biscuit tins are descriptions of what we want. It might be a really, really detailed label on a biscuit tin, but this is something saying what the valuable thing is that we want. These are Fortnum and Mason tins in that picture, and they're very expensive, kind of thing that you only splash money on foolishly when you're in airports. But you can have a very elaborate description of something. But the crucial thing to understand is that the biscuits themselves are something different, and they're what we actually want. What we want is actually something that's sweet and nice to taste and is nourishing. And those two things, the biscuit and the biscuit tin, are different things. And this is something that was a real kind of eureka moment for me to realize that biscuit tins and biscuits are made of different stuff. So the conversations that we most have when we're project managers, is we talk about biscuit tins. We talk about how can we describe the biscuit. So how can we adequately describe the thing that we want? We talk about how can we be sure that the biscuits in the tin are an accurate reflection of what we wrote on the tin. So there's an enormous, anybody who's had anything to do with projects will know, there's an enormous amount of effort goes into showing that the thing that you've done matches the description. Now, obviously, for some aspects of biscuits, this is really important. If a biscuit has an allergen in it, then that should be on the tin, right? So there are some aspects of the match between the two that are really important. But some aspects of the match actually aren't the most important thing. What's most important is that the biscuit itself is valuable. And another kind of conversation that we have is, why can't we go faster? Conversations that don't happen so much. What sort of biscuits should we make? How were the biscuits? So kind of like if we gave these biscuits to try, what do people think of them? The what sorts of biscuits should we make is like asking people what sorts of biscuits should we make. So talking to people who might actually eat them in the end. Now we've got real biscuits. What do we have to improve about them? So this is the thing about like the biscuit tin and the biscuit. The biscuit is made of different stuff that has its own logic. It needs storing in a certain way. Certain things make it crispy, certain things make it sweet. Biscuits have their own logic. And connected to that is, why can't we go faster? So kind of, what is it about these biscuits that are making them difficult to make? Advantages of focusing on the biscuit. It gives you access to the biscuit problems, the unique stuff about the real thing. It gives you access to the point of view of the people who like the biscuits, who are actually going to consume it. Dangers of focusing on the biscuits. What's known as the faster horse problem. This is Henry Ford. That's my alarm going off. Henry Ford said, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, not a car. I'm nearly done. Dangers of not focusing on the biscuits. What it says on the tin describes something nobody wants. It's actually very easy to describe an impossible biscuit, something that's soft and crunchy or all butter and low calorie. It's not very easy to make an all butter, low calorie biscuit. So there's a big difference between a description and a reality. And I'm going to skip these and I'm going to just stick on this final slide. So how to focus on biscuits. Get ideas from people who eat biscuits. Make actual biscuits. Feed them your biscuits. Get feedback on the biscuits. This is not about biscuits. That's it.
That's
And
brilliant, Mark. I love the visuals, like, and like the analogy is perfect. Does anybody have a question for Mark?
Yeah, can I get some biscuits, please? I think you made me very hungry now.
I did realize that putting lots of biscuits in a presentation would just mean that people are just thinking, actually, I could really go a biscuit now.
Yeah,
Really good
still
presentation,
around
thank you.
lunchtime.
I've got a quick one if we have time.
Yeah, go.
Hopefully. Mark, so I think I'm sort of trying to understand the analogy, the metaphor with biscuits and biscuit tins. So does the tin have an actual representation? Is it kind of like your specifications and requirements documents and stuff like that? So
yes. So it describes what the biscuit is and what it does, and it might even have a picture of it. And one of the things that I realized when I started on this is that organizations can only really deal in biscuit tins. And
they're not even very good at that either.
No, but they're terrible at dealing with biscuits. So kind of you have to have these kind of edges, these kind of like borderlines between thinking about something and actually making something. And maybe what project management doing is one of the ways of making project management more successful is trying to concentrate on those margins between the two and manage them better. They're always going to be problematic. Is my
I see Irene's got a hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. Thanks, Mark. Great analogy. I loved it. And just a chance for you to plug your book a bit more. Delivering the Impossible. Just wondered, do you offer techniques? Do you suggest techniques in your book to?
Yes. So in the book, I talk about positive ways of seeing projects and why they're helpful. And then I talk about a couple of unhelpful, dangerous ways of seeing projects that are very common. And then in the final conclusion, I talk about what the mechanisms are for why one bunch of ways of seeing is tempting and why the other one is kind of helpful, but not the first thing that we think of, and how we might use like things that actually turn out to be fairly traditional, iterative, incremental approaches to make sure we focus on the helpful ways of doing projects and avoid the really dangerous ones. The most dangerous one is commitment and consistency and thinking that projects are about keeping promises.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I hope you get your sponsor. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Irene and Alex for the questions. So our next speaker is someone that is also having her first talk at the Aspiring Speakers community. Shabana has a great story about like how she broke into the marketplace after 40s, and I'm looking forward to it. Hi, Shabana, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks. So yeah, I'll start by sharing my screen. I can't share at the moment.
Give me 1 second. Let me find you.
Beginner's mistake, Anthony. Where is it?
It's always me. Carly, can you make her co-host? I can't even find her account here.
I'm just checking. I can't see a way to do it.
Oh, here, found it. Make co-host. Try again, Shabana.
Okay, let's try. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Hi. So thank you for having me. Yes, it is my first time, so bear with me. Yeah, today I'm going to be talking about my personal story about breaking traditions and cultural barriers. So I'll start with first introducing myself. My name is Shabana. I'm currently working as a Power Platform developer within Network Rail. I'm a mum to 4 boys who are keeping me very, very busy. Um, and I was born and raised in Sweden. Unfortunately, I've lost my Swedish accent along these years. So yeah, everyone is like, "Why don't you have these yeah moments?" But I don't. I don't know which accent I have got now. So something I need to work on. Yeah. So my hobbies are like, reading, biking, or walking. I have recently started boxing as well, which I'm really enjoying. So looking forward to get some punches in there. Um, So what I've done is I split my talk into 4 agendas, which I'm going to go through with you now. So from a very young age, it was drilled into me that the aim of my life should be to get married, have kids, and look after them. That's it. Full stop. Nothing else. Um, Moving forward, talking about dreams was not allowed. So every time, even discussing any dreams I had was, I was looked up as it was like something shameful I'd done. So you don't talk about dreams. Sports was something that was not encouraged. I tried to have moments where I was able to play a little bit sports, but it was just not possible. And even growing up, I saw that there was very limited options for girls to play sports, and that's when I decided to become a football coach, and went into some schools that were not allowing girls to play football, and started changing that. So I was working closely with FA, trying to change that scene for the girls. Um, the life I lived was something that I didn't like, and I wanted to start making changes, and I didn't know how or where. And the only thing I could think of was start reading and see if I could find a way to live a different life, because obviously it wasn't something that I wanted to. This is not was something I wanted to do. I mean, I love my kids and I love being a mom, and but there was something huge part of me missing. So yeah, like I started with a couple of books, started listening to podcasts regularly, and from there on, I started to make some small changes in my life. So it wasn't like, oh, just go and start doing major stuff, but it was just small changes. And for me, for example, going for walks was something that huge, because every time I was thinking about going for a walk, I felt guilty that I'm abandoning my house, chores and kids and everything. So it was this whole guilt associated with everything I was doing. So the first step I took was just going for walks and slowly trying to remove that guilt that I was carrying around with me. So that was the small steps to those small changes. Once I had gained that confidence and was feeling less guilty, I decided to see if I could go back to my childhood passion, or when I was a teenage passion, that was coding, which I left it at that point and couldn't carry on. So I decided to start learning how to code again. And when I started that, everything slowly, I felt so different and alive, and it felt like there was something more to my life than just the things that I was doing. And that learning new skill was giving me some hope and building my confidence as well. So the more I coded, the more I fell in love again. And I wanted to kind of go back into tech. So I started doing all type of courses that I could find. And that's when I, ended up looking for a job. So yeah, I mean, this is just a small version of what happened to my life. I'm, trying to keep it very short, but what I've realized is that, when you change your mindset, you can achieve anything. And I think that was the pivotal moment for me when I shifted my mindset, that I am able to look forward to my life now. I feel like I've been reborn by making these small changes, and I'm looking forward to the future. So yeah, thank you for listening to me, and feel free to reach out, and I would love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Shabana. That was a great, very inspiring talk. Like, I think that I speak for everyone here. We want to listen to the other 5 talks after this, like telling the whole story of your life and how you did it. Does anybody have any questions to Shabana? Go ahead, Alex.
Shabana, how do I find you on LinkedIn without your QR code?
So it's Shabana at Shabana Govani. Let me just type it in. It might be easier.
How do I spell that? Because I just searched for you and I can't find you.
There is a link on the aspiring speakers.
I'll use that. Thank you very much. Don't worry.
Thank
you very much.
I have put my name down, full name down.
I really enjoyed the talk. So thank you very much. Karim has a hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shabana, for your talk. I just want to add to your talk, it's a true proof of a mindset shift, okay, to help people achieve whatever they want to achieve, regardless of your circumstances. So the way you have done it with small step, and now you have your life in control, and then you can look forward to the future. It's something that people struggle to do, but from the point you make the mindset shift, you can achieve anything. It's about myself as well, but I won't go too deep in that. I can see myself through you, but it's a real good talk you have done. So well done to you, and then good luck for the future. Yeah.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
All right. Any other questions for Shabana?
No, just I would like to really commend you for taking the first step and sharing the content. We wouldn't have known about you if you hadn't done that. So thank you for your courage, and I really encourage you to keep doing more of this. Look forward to seeing much more about this, and best of luck on your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
All right, so since Fahad manifested himself, so our next speaker is Fahad. He is like an old member of our community. I think that he went for the first DevOps event, if I'm not mistaken. I remember him from 3 years ago or something. So I would like to introduce you to Fahad, and straight from Qatar right now, right, Fahad? And he's going to talk about his lessons as a first-time engineer manager. So,
yeah, great. Thank you so much. Let's see if I can get my slides running. It's the screen that's fine. Hang on. Actually, I did this, yeah. Brilliant. Let me know when you're able to see, because everything else is gone.
yes, we see your browser.
All right, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start the timer and then hopefully try to go through.
I don't actually. Is it,
you don't see?
Is it okay for everybody else?
You might need to click around in Zoom. I've not used Zoom for a while because our company uses Teams, and it's just all weird. Is it visible for any? If it's is anybody else having another issue, similar issue?
Yes, I
I
can see it.
I can say it.
Oh, okay. Shall I start? I think most of the stuff is talking anyway, so I think the slides are mostly support material. So, all right. So, my story, right? So, um, uh, basically, I did engineering, and then I joined the industry as a grad, and did software development for a while. Um, I am sharing my video too, I think. Oh, sorry, it was turned off. Yes. It should be up now. Is that okay? Cool. Thank you, Aaron. All right. So yeah. So I think I started as a grad, and did software development for a while. Then I was kind of I moved on to doing contracting because I couldn't seem to find stable managers. And then while doing contracting, I progressed to becoming dev lead and did that for the last few years. So that was like the first 15 odd years of my career. Then also I had an expectation. I used to working with teams of like similar skilled developers, right? Especially when you're a contractor, you go into the client side. Mostly you're expected to be competent and you're delivering until I got hired as a manager. So basically, I switched jobs and joined a company in Qatar. And one of the roles which is there was that I'll be an engineering manager. So now this was quite a transition because there's a very big difference between being a dev lead, where you don't have people management responsibilities, and somebody who's actually got the people management responsibilities. So I'm doing both at the moment, but it was quite a different role, much more different than I expected it to be. So I'd like to share a few lessons that I learned along the way. So it's been about what? That's almost 18 months that I've been doing this now. So I'd like to share a few lessons. So 3 lessons I learned as an engineering manager. First, the power of one-to-ones, right? So being a contractor, I kind of forgotten what these were, but I think I really well, this was part of the framework from line management training that you're supposed to kind of have these one-to-ones, and I used to have weekly. So I've got a team of about 8 engineers and two QA people and one requirements engineer. So it's like a complete pod that does software development. But I think the key thing I found that these one-to-ones help to build trust and understanding. Basically you kind of help the team members become comfortable, and you're able to kind of talk to them and build that out, and that really helps from a team environment perspective. And also the other thing is it's about delegation as well, right? So I think a lot of stuff that I've learned was that when you do these one-to-ones, you might, for example, agree upon some actions, for example, for them to actually do stuff, especially if you're a line manager. And it's quite important. I kept losing track of the actions I would assign to people, and then losing how to follow up with them. So what I did was that one of good friends of mine, he said that why don't you have an email open when you should go into these one-to-ones, and then you can jot down the action points, and then one thing is off that you've actually done the one-to-one, you've got some actions and notes tracked, and then next time around you actually have something over there. So it's quite important to actually also kind of have that tracking done, so that allows you to kind of see what you agreed and discussed. So but yeah, I mean it goes both ways, and it's also kept people like in check, in sense like we knew what we had to discuss. The other thing is, like, I think one-to-ones is there's actually, you can do one-to-ones and then you can do mentorship, and they're two different things actually. So it could be pretty much like just down to work and not really talking about anything else. But I've really found this really story quite interesting, where one of the junior members of the team was really excited to do AI, and I found myself really really want to support him, and even though our product didn't really have any scope for AI. So our product is like a trading platform that we're trying to build, and it doesn't have any specific AI requirements. So, but I said, yeah, fine, we'll actually help to get that done. So having regular chats and trying to drive that enthusiasm into the right place and see if we could find some work for him really helped, and was good enough that we were able to motivate him, and we actually added some value to the product. It's another story. The business people thought the AI didn't really make much difference to the trading software because they were much quicker on just using the UI rather than actually typing out what they want. But that's a separate story. The other thing was, I think I found that it's quite important to set technical direction for the team, especially if you're dev lead and a line manager, right? So I think I chose to use consensus and collaboration. So what that actually meant was, like, whenever we're kind of doing these long-winded changes, where you want to make sure that people are actually bought into your decision and not really, you're not kind of just handing down uh, direction and say, hey, this is the way we're going to do it, and not really do anything else. So that really helped to enable people to kind of talk up and see their views being heard and shared. And I think what really helped was structuring the meetings. So basically, we didn't. It was setting up like a series of meetings and really kind of driving home certain architectural points. For example, how you would kind of would architect certain parts of the applications. So those are kind of three interesting things that I did much more of than I did in my previous roles. So that was interesting. Now, a couple of things I found really hard. There are actually more things, but these are the more poignant ones. You know, performance reviews. So this is how I felt basically. So I was, I'm not sure if any line managers here, but I didn't know that this actually happened. But I think I do, there's something called bell curve. If people know about this around corporate, where my manager told me that of the team of 8 I have, about 11, but I had some external contractors. I need to kind of choose like 20% who must be the lowest rating, 60% should be the medium rating and high, and the other 20% should be the high rating. So, it's quite hard to sort of deal with that, especially with a high performing team who were really all delivering what they had to deliver. But yeah, I think I had to kind of go through it, and I think this is my first time I've gone through it, and I think I've had the basically the repercussions of people coming back to me and saying, "Well, why do you think I've done you've rated me the way you have?" And I think what I found was, I think you just need to be as fair as you can be, and as much constructive feedback you can provide, but you can't really satisfy anybody else. And I think I still am getting used to it, but I think you have to kind of try and be as objective as you can with performance, and it's really hard to do, right? So this is something that I really struggled with. The other thing was handling different conversations. So, for example, for me, one of the things I had was there was another senior engineer in the team, and actually, he really didn't like me doing things in the way that I wanted to. So I got challenged quite a lot. So basically, whenever I'd say, "Let's do it this way," I'll get challenged. Sometimes in team meetings, and it didn't really set the right mood. And I was struggling with how to kind of deal with this. Happened like earlier on, and I've kind of like never had this situation where, because every time I've worked before, we'd all come up with some conclusion. The skill levels were almost the same, but in this case, the skill was slightly different. There's slightly different background, and I think I yeah, basically I had to step up and say, okay, fine, I must do something about it because it was really affecting me. So yeah, I think had to decide to kind of, yeah, you need to have confidence and you need to have empathy too. But I went to the HR trying to understand what we need to do, and I actually got really good support from HR on that, where they said, like, yeah, you should, you're happy to kind of, you are the line manager, you can do X, Y, Z. You should say what's acceptable, what isn't. And yeah, as much as I dreaded it, I did have that meeting and said, "Hey, this behavior is sort of not really acceptable. What's actually going on?" And we're able to work it out. And it's really surprising, but I'm really good with the person now. It's really, really awesome. So, but yeah, actually going through it was hard. So I think being a manager and being busy in this kind of situation is a challenging role. So yeah, it's a short view about my experience as line manager. So to recap, you can be a manager, you can accept that, as a responsibility. And these are the quick summary of the relationships, lessons. So you build the relationships with one-to-ones, try and do mentorship. They're not the same thing, but if you can, it works. It really helps, and it really makes you feel good internally. Try and actually collaborate together, but the technical vision, and yeah, don't shy away from difficult conversations, even though it is actually quite hard. Yeah, thanks for listening. That's it.
Thank you, Fahad. Amazing presentation as always.
Thank you.
We have time for one question, so Lena jumped on it. Lena, you get the slot.
I've been waiting to ask this question since you mentioned one-to-ones. Great talk, thank you very much. So what do you think? I mean, there seems to be, there's been a bit of noise about senior leaders in tech not doing one-to-ones. And I think notably one was Brian Chesky, I had to look him up, CEO of Airbnb. And I think his approach was, people are grown up. If they have a problem, they'll come to me. What do you think, based on your experience, what do you think about that?
I think so. It's quite interesting, right? I think so. To give an idea, the composition of my team, we have I have people with like sort of 10, like 15, 20 years of experience, and I've got like junior people who actually got less experience. I think I found that the right frequency is quite important, and I think having the one-to-ones, it's useful because you want to try and give the platform to the other person I'll help them ask questions, because I struggle with this with my manager, right? So trying to get his time, it's been hard, and I think having a one-to-one really helps you set that like official place where you can discuss your concerns, which may not be as easy on a chat, right? I think because you've eventually got dedicated time, I think it's really helps to be able to address those concerns. So yeah, I'm definitely up for it. I think the frequency can be changed though. I think if you see there are lots of senior people in your organization, or you don't really need to have, for example, weekly ones. You can do bi-weekly or even like 3 weeks at a time if you feel the need to do so, depending on how much workload you have. Because I'm expected to work as an engineer as well, and perform as a dev lead. Yeah, I think so. I think they're definitely really useful. It's really a crucial way to kind of build trust, and yeah, I don't know what Brian Chesky is on that. So yeah.
Thanks, Fahad. Irene, okay, you have.
I've just got one curious question. I don't know, when you talked about the performance reviews and that you had a fantastically everyone was performing well, but you had to pick that 20%, 60%, and then top 20%. And I don't know what situation you were in. Did you feel that you could push back on that and say, look, I'm going to demotivate my team by doing that? Or were there new in season performance that it was actually, you could say the 20% you could be improving because of A, B, C without demotivating?
I think it's a tough position for me because the first time it happened, I think,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot actually, because I think there like no matter what everybody says, there are politics, there is favoritism, there is always this pressure from the top. Like some people, like I got forced to give a rating I didn't really want to one of the people in my team. I didn't really feel great about it, but I didn't really know what else to do, honestly. But I think in terms of pushing back, I couldn't. I did want to, but in my situation, I couldn't because it was the first time to do it. But I think the other thing is also, I feel like, because I mean, the message from the top was, like, I think there's always differentiation. But the problem is then, I think the way these ratings are up there, like for example, we call it like, it's needs focus, expected, and excellent, for example. And we have same for behaviors as well. So one's for contributions, one for behavior. So there are ways to kind of go around it. But I think it's tough, and for the person who got the needs focus, he's not very happy with him. So I've got to set up another meeting now with my manager to kind of go through his concerns to see what's actually going on. But I think and it's a tough thing. I think it's an organizational policy. I think it's a bit silly, to be honest. Just an anecdote here. I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit of time, but one of the friends, he says that they're just round robin to the lowest rating for everybody in the team, and everybody knows exactly what they're going to get. Everybody's perfectly happy with it, you know, because that way it's just shared. You know, that's one way to deal with it. I don't think I can get away with it in my organization, but yeah, that's
All
yeah.
right. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
The folks that want to stay later after the last talk, if you want to speak a little bit and the speakers have time for it, feel free to stay or join our Slack channel and ask them directly. So
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
for our last but not least talk of the day, we have a pair, like our only one, Lina, that you all know, and Diana, which is having her first talk with our community today, and they are going to speak about runbooks. So go for it, Lina and Diana.
Okay, so only thing I'm going to say is just brace yourselves while I pull up the slide deck. So, all visible? Great. Okay, so first question is, does anyone recognize this person? Hands up. If you've, I see Carly pointing herself. If you've ever been on call and maybe woken up at 3 a.m. to deal with a high priority operational issue, maybe there's a little part of you that can relate to what this person looks like. There we go. So hello, as Anthony said, I am Lina Boonaram, and together with Diana Lanuti, we'll be taking you through Runbooks 101, or the clickbait title, How to Elevate Your Runbooks in 3 Easy Steps. So we are going to take you through what a runbook is, so just so that we're all on the same page. 2, why do runbooks matter? 3, what does an effective runbook look like? And we're going to finish off then with those 3 steps that we promised. So how to elevate your runbooks in 3 easy steps. And then I don't know if we'll have time for Q&As, but we'll see. So what is a runbook? So for me and Diana, certainly, we think a runbook should be a living document. It's not something that you write once and you forget and you file, and then you only kind of pick up at 3 o'clock in the morning, bless you. And to see what you need. It's something that should change. So as your code changes, your runbook should change. If your processes get updated, update your runbook. It should also be a set of step-by-step instructions, so a how-to guide. So instructions that can be followed by anyone in the team at any hour, regardless of their level of experience or their tenure in your team or your company. So you can think about it as a little bit like a recipe. It contains granular information and instructions for how to complete a very specific task in a quick and efficient manner. And it's based on the previous experience of people that have actually resolved this issue or completed this task. Now, obviously, runbooks are useful for more than just incidents, but Diana and I will be focusing on call runbooks specifically in this talk. So why do runbooks matter, Diana?
Thank you, Lina. Hi, everyone. Excited to be here. Well, before going to why do runbooks matter, I just want to ask you how many of you have been on call. If you could please raise your hands. And how many of you like being on call? And you don't need to raise your hands here. Circling back to the 3 a.m. page example, who knows, maybe you were dreaming yourself in Bora Bora and you were abruptly interrupted. So let's see how runbooks could help in this case and why do they matter for our on-call experience. First of all, a runbook is crucial for effective incident management because it provides clear step-by-step instructions to quickly diagnose and mitigate the issue to minimize the downtime. Of course, it's easier to navigate through runbooks that follow a standardized format and ensure consistency across the team or organization, regardless of who owns them or who authored them. Having a common runbook template also facilitates smoother handover experience because teams can pass projects around, and that's easier for the engineers to adapt. Going back to the 3 a.m. incident and the pressure to resolve it, having a well-written runbook can boost an engineer's confidence. knowing that they have a reliable guide to follow reduces their anxiety and helps them actually focus on the issue. To support this, the runbook should also include a clear escalation path, because of course we can't always resolve the issue or mitigate the impact, and we just need to know who to call for help. Runbooks also enhance efficiency by providing testing commands that streamline the investigation, reduce the time spent troubleshooting, and the risk of human errors. This can be done through scripts or automation. And last but not least, runbooks are an excellent tool for knowledge sharing within the team and beyond, because they capture collective experience and make it easier for new team members to learn and contribute. And they have those clear and easy to follow instructions that ensure that knowledge is accessible to everyone, regardless of their experience level. So now let's go further to a structure that we find useful for effective runbooks. So first of all, we need the incident type. This is like a clear definition of the incident type that helps you in quickly identifying the nature of the problem. It simply gets you thinking from the time you get paged and before you reach the laptop what the problem might be. Then you need some description symptoms. So this is like a detailed description of the signs of the incident to kind of help you diagnosing the issue accurately. We move further to immediate steps. This is essential for the runbook. You need to have outlined the immediate steps covering the checks that you need to properly identify the issue before taking any kind of action. For each of these steps, we should provide the links to relevant tools and resources, such as dashboards or metrics. This helps you to quickly access the necessary information without needing to search external resources. Then, for each step, we have a corresponding set of actions. These actions need to be taken to mitigate the impact or to resolve the incident, ensuring a systematic approach to this problem solving. It's also easier to roll back in case something goes wrong if you just stick to the script, follow the instructions in your run book, and you can just pinpoint where something went wrong. Then we need the escalation path that I previously called, because we might not be always able to mitigate the impact, so we need to know who to call to promptly escalate to the appropriate team or individual. And last but not least, it should contain a link to the post-incident process, because not everyone will be familiar with it. So after the incident, you need to properly document what you did during the incident, to perform a root cause analysis to determine the underlying issues and prevent future occurrences. Of course, you will probably need to update your runbook based on the lessons learned. You will probably need to update your alarms, so on and so forth. Now, let's get back to Lina for the key takeaways.
So, I promised you 3 easy steps. We've seen why runbooks matter, and we've seen, recommendations for what a good runbook should potentially look like. But the 3 things that you could potentially do now to elevate your runbooks are: 1, ownership. Make sure that your runbooks are owned by someone, and someone has a responsibility, or a team has a responsibility, to keep them up to date and relevant. So it needs to be revised periodically and regularly. Again, if your code changes, review your runbook. If your processes changes, definitely update your runbook. The second is making sure that they're conventional and they're consistent. So again, as Diana already mentioned, if you have a set number of your templates and your runbooks look the same across your team, it's much easier for someone to understand and know what they're looking for. So much better if they're the same and consistent across your team, much better across engineering, and even better if you can achieve some sort of consistency across your organization. So it helps engineers that are potentially working on multiple projects. So jumping from one project doesn't mean having to another, doesn't mean having to understand a whole new structure of runbooks. It also helps onboarding engineers and help engineers or team members be productive and contribute straight away. And a key part is actually it can be a stepping stone towards automating your runbook. And the final thing is actually just keeping the essential information on your runbook. We've mentioned a lot of things that are incredibly useful to have on a runbook, but really you have to decide what's essential for your runbook. Keep it focused. So sometimes that can just be the dashboard and metrics that help you pinpoint the issue, the contact points, the escalation routes. Ultimately, you want to be kind to the future 3 a.m. you. So turning it around a little bit, what would be your perfect runbook? What would be in it? So this is our final slides, so I should say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena, Diana. Amazing conversation. I like this, like pairing up, like we should do pairing like pair programming. There's like pair speaking clubs like this. This works very well. Before we pass for questions for Lena, I know that we are over time, so I'll pass the ball to Carly, and so that she can just say a word about DevOps, and then some questions for Lena and Diana, and if anybody still have questions to Nelson from the first presentation as well. So Carly, have your saying here.
Sorry, I was frantically writing down the last of the feedback. So if any of the speakers want the feedback I've been collecting today, ping me afterwards and I'll send it through. I know not everyone wants feedback, so the offer is there. Yes, so Anthony and I are collaborating again with DevOps UK to run an aspiring speaker session. It will be on the Friday morning of DevOps UK when the event takes place in May. And it's an opportunity to give an in-person lightning talk, similar to what we've done today, for anyone who wants to get into speaking in public and wants a bit of support. We will be assigning mentors as well for this programme, and we're looking for submissions at the moment. So Anthony does have the link handy. We're collecting everything in Airtable. So if you're interested, do you get a free ticket if you take part? You get a ticket to the Friday, not the full conference, Irene, but that's a good question. Thank you for asking. You'll be able to access the Friday event, basically. So if you're interested, please do submit a talk idea on the form by the end of this week, please. Anthony and I are going to try and review the submissions next week and get in touch. We'll get in touch irrespective as to whether you are successful or not, because we only have a few slots available. But we'd love to see your submissions, and we would, if you're accepted, assign you to a mentor that will help you build and review your talk for giving at DevOps UK in May this year. Irene, you have a question? Would you
Sorry,
like to...
I'm very vocal today. I'm usually quiet. And a couple of questions. Are there any particular themes? And how long would the talk be? What's the sort of time?
There is no particular themes in the session at all that we're looking for. It just needs to be tech related, to be perfectly honest. So anything that comes under, tech generally would be accepted by the conference, I would say. And then you had a second question. What was that? Remind me, please, Irene.
And how long? What's the duration of the talk?
It should be 7 to 10 minutes, I think, but we would confirm that at the time because it does depend on how many people we accept for the slot as well.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Is there any other questions anyone wants to ask about the DevOps opportunity?
Yeah. So Carly, in terms of the event planning and sort of just leading up to it, when you say that somebody will be assigned a mentor, what does that mean? Have you got any idea of how the process would work, or is that still in works?
Yeah, so what we did last year was we had a pool of mentors that volunteered their time to basically be paired up with people, and we randomly assigned them.
Okay.
And then it was kind of that we would make the introduction over email, and then it was up to the mentor and the speaker mentee in this occasion, who's been paired with, you're being paired with a accomplished conference speaker, basically, someone that's spoken at conferences before.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to them to manage the relationship, but the mentor would give you as a speaker guidance on, how your slides are looking or your demo, perhaps give advice on run-throughs, feedback, all those kinds of things. One thing we will do as well is we'll release like a briefing document for the relationship just to outline a few parameters, because that was one thing that was missing from last year. And we can say what we expect you to do in terms of touch points and things. But it would basically be that you're paired with someone who's a confident speaker that will help you prepare for the event and give you advice on how to run your session. Does that answer your question, Fahad?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much. And also, just to confirm, you said that the ticket will be for Friday. So if I want to attend the full conference, I should pay for 2 days ticket and then get the free one, or how does that work then?
You're the only person that's asked me that question. I'd have no idea. I'd need to check with Kim and Mark and see what they would expect for that. But yes, it's only for the day that you would be speaking on.
Okay, well, just let me know, because obviously I'd like to attend the conference too for the other 2 days. So whatever is required.
But
Yeah.
what's it like? We're not trying to bribe people with tickets, but like I think like last year there was like full like the full conference, but yeah, Carly is has more insider information than me at the moment.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is okay. I just want, yeah, no, I'd like to, because obviously it's fine. If a ticket is required, it's fine. That's all right. The more important thing is to actually get the experience of public speaking, which you guys are doing so well. Thank you so much. Yeah, great.
Before I hand over for questions for Lena and Diana, has anyone else got any other questions on the DevOps stuff? Nelson, Alex, yes. Right, Nelson, on you go.
Right. I wanted to know, if it is an in-person event?
Yes, it's an in-person event taking place in London, so you would need to factor that in.
Great. Okay. When is the event?
It is the beginning of May. Let me get the precise date.
7th to the 9th.
Yeah, so you would be on the 9th. The 9th is the Friday. Yeah.
9th of May?
Yes.
Okay, so I would be in the UK then, so hopefully I might be in the event.
Then feel free to submit. We'll be reviewing the applications over the next week or so.
So I would apply. I would apply today or so.
Oh.
All right, so Robert has some questions. The first is for Lena and Diana on runbooks. So what techniques do you use to ensure that runbooks are being kept up to date?
Diana, do you want to take that one?
Yes, sure. So you can set up like regular reviews and updates. For example, you can just have them, I don't know, once per quarter. Of course, if you have an active on-call rotation, those will get reviewed every time someone gets paged. So it's important that each team members knows that if they need to go off script or they do something that's not written in the runbook, that will need to be updated, and that should be essentially the responsibility of the team. It's also like an open feedback loop. So if someone deals with our runbook from a different team, they can just come to the team owning that and provide that feedback to them and agree on the changes that they need to do. It's also like the mindset that you have about them. Like you can think of runbooks eventually will get automated. So you can think of them as the same as code. Yeah, do you want to add something more, Lena?
Only that I think it comes down ultimately to culture. So as much as the culture of the team and the culture of the engineering org that you're in, runbooks, particularly given the high stress environment that they're often used in, should be seen, if not as first-class citizens, then certainly very close. So they get updated again with a code, just like you would add tests, you make sure that there's a runbook. So you're responsible for your code and what you commit.
All right, thank you, Lena. Alex, is your question for Lena or for Nelson?
It was for Lena and Diana, and it's an observation, not a question. So apologies for that. I just wanted to say, because it was really useful for the rest of the group to see the way that Lena and Diana did the handover, was very important, demonstrating the structure of the talk. And I think that it's something that as beginners, we don't often think about. But Lena doing the introduction, explaining of what we're talking about in this talk, Diana doing the nuts and bolts of the explanation with the details, and then Lena coming on doing the outro of this is what we've seen in this talk, I think was very well done, and I think we all can learn from that. So sorry for the lack of a question, but I thought it was worth saying.
Great feedback. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Alex. Fahad, do you have a question?
Yes, for Lena and Diana, thank you so much for your talk. It's really useful. I've got a couple of practical questions. So where do you keep your run books at the moment? Do you keep them in Confluence or Code? Because you said that, you should try and commit stuff to run book as like you would for tests and code, for example, right? So where is that kept at the moment?
Practically, at the moment, for the organisation that we work in, it's a mixture of both, and potentially some of the other that maybe I'm not aware of in another team. But certainly, I'm an advocate for run books as code. I think that, and particularly as well, documentation as code. Mainly from the perspective that if you're committing it and you're updating it with your code, it's more likely to get done. And especially if culturally it's seen as if you make a change but you haven't updated your document or you haven't updated your run book, someone's going to ask. Whereas if it's actually, in Confluence or another sort of storage system, it's not quite so visible and so therefore less likely to happen.
Yeah, and how do you enforce that? I mean, do you have some Sonar rules or some pipeline specific thing that you expect, or is it just enforced from behavioral perspective? Everybody sort of somebody's code review might just say, "Hey, have you done this?"
You could do that, but I think it works better if it's a cultural change and if people see the benefit of it all being in one place. And it's done because it's useful there, not necessarily because you're told it's got to be there. I don't know, Diana, if you have any.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I worked with Rambooks as code previously. They weren't automatically running, but they were generated through Ruby templates, and they were generated in the format of wiki pages, and they were standardized across the entire organization. So essentially, there were just selecting the team's metrics that was specific to your team, but other than that, the structure was pretty much the same for everyone, and it was super easy to follow, even if you had so if you determine that the issue is not on your service but on an upstream dependency, it was very easy to just go to that runbook and see what's happening there. And when you were escalating to that team, you could just pinpoint, hey, I think that's the issue with your service is causing this impact on our side, please help. And it simplifies the process a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Diana, Lena, and Fahad. So Nelson, we have a question for you exactly on schema evolution and how to manage it. Do you need a monorepo? Yeah, the usual challenges of schema evolution with protobuf. Are you still around, Nelson?
I didn't get the question.
So the question is, how do you manage schema changes across multiple client projects? I think it's talking about protobuf. I think Google uses a monorepo, which is quite overkill for smaller companies.
Sorry, how do you manage schema changes across?
Multiple client projects.
Right, okay. Yes, I know that Google uses monorepo. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so one of the things that you can use is semantic versioning, right? You have major or minor patch, right? Another thing you can do is to design the APIs for backward compatibility, and then we use feature flags as well. For the organization that I work for, one of the things that come to mind is semantic versioning, right? Where in the major one would introduce breaking changes, and then the minor one would add backward compatible features, and then with the patch is just meant to just fix bugs or make non-breaking updates.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much, Nelson. Any other question for Nelson's? Just a reminder, you can always jump into the aspiring speakers Slack community and ask any of the speakers if you have other questions. But anything else that anyone wants to ask Nelson? So Carly has interesting comment like protobufs. When I use protobufs before, we centralize the definitions in a core project that could be plugged on in a multiple projects. Yeah, like shared care.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I'm struggling with this at the moment in our project as well. I think I chose not to use protobufs because I really wanted to find a way, because the problem is it has binary serialization. So when you are trying to use, say for example, if you're trying to kind of work with multiple layers of software, and you can't guarantee that one component can actually move on to the latest version or can't really fully make it backwards compatible, then it breaks.
Change, yeah.
Because the only way you can make a change is an additive change. So if you try to do modification, it just won't work basically. That's where I think we don't really need to use gRPC for our case, but I think for now what I've resorted to use is basically using Java as a way to define the object models and use that as a DSL for now. And we can then generate whatever representations we need, whether it's JSON, which is what most of the other teams use. I think at some point when we need to kind of make optimizations, we might reverse engineer it into protos, which can, or for example, some other kind of format to kind of create binary if it needs to be more efficient. But I think, versioning is a big challenge. I don't think protos give you anything out of the box, do they? Because
as a matter of fact, yes, as a matter of fact, there's teams, to your point, Fahad, as a matter of fact, there's teams working on this the implementation that you're describing currently, because we have found that it works for smaller teams and it's easier to implement when the changes come. So yes.
One interesting approach that I've seen happening is to have like a metadata dictionary with a protobuf. And then like it works kind of like Swagger or OpenAPI. You point it at this metadata generator and it generates the client-specific code from there. And then, of course, you have to worry about backwards and forwards compatibility, what to change first, blah, 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 blah. But clearly one way to break it down that I've seen success. All right, folks, it was amazing hosting all of you and receiving all of you for the first lighting talks of the year. I hope to see you soon. I don't know if we're going to have like lighting talks in February, but we certainly have some events. Please register for the Vox if you want to have a change, and we'll contact you soon if your submission got selected, right? Thank you, Carly. Thanks, everybody. Oh, by the way, the recording will be made available on YouTube. Forgot to say that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.